If you have any familiarity with normal choose your own adventure stories, like the classic type you would see in quite a few kids' books, for example, you might be thinking, oh, anime choose your own adventure stories are probably just normal choose your own adventure stories, but with an anime coat of paint, right? It's nothing too complicated. And that's where you would be wrong, as anime choose your own adventure stories are almost entirely different in structure to the classic type you're probably used to, if you have a familiarity with this topic. And while the structure I'll talk about is especially true for anime themed choose your own adventure stories, a lot of what I'm going to talk about is also true of most modern choose your own adventure stories in general, to the point where I'd say there's even quite a schism, or that like a different classification should be established to differentiate the usual classic structure that I think a lot more people are used to this new one that's been more established and is more popular on the internet. So, with that in mind, how do exactly anime choose your own adventure stories work? Well, to both enlighten people who may not be so used to the topic, as well as to show in more detail the difference I'm talking about, I'll first briefly introduce how a normal or a classic structured choose your own adventure story is supposed to look like. In a classic choose your own adventure story, what is supposed to happen is that the world, the setting you're involved in, as well as the character you're playing as, are briefly introduced, and the story itself is focused more on your choices. You are going to make choices in this pretty thinly established world with this very ill defined character that will guide you through a variety of paths, which may result in a variety of endings, some of which pretty abrupt or bad, resulting in the severe injury or even death of your character, perhaps. If you want a good modern example of a choose your own adventure story with a classic structure, which feels weird to even say, but I think you get the point, I'd recommend the game Disturbed on Steam. It's free and it will give you a good idea of what I'm talking about. But in short, that's how a choose your own adventure story is supposed to go. However, in an anime choose your own adventure story, the structure is not only very different, as I mentioned before, but I'd even argue that it's even reversed from how it's usually supposed to go. As anime choose your own adventures are generally more focused on making a character, like you really spend a lot of time detailing and creating a character or group of characters, from their appearance to personality to powers to backstory to a variety of other things. You really do detail your character a lot in anime choose your own adventures. Not only a lot more than even most normal stories, even most normal animes, but especially a lot more than normal choose your own adventures or classic choose your own adventure stories, where this kind of thing would be mostly glossed over, you know? And then you might wonder, oh, but what about things like world building? What about going through different paths and trying to get to an ending in a story? Well, these features take more of a backseat in modern choose your own adventures. In fact, most choose your own adventures and at character creation, essentially. Some of them can expand that into world building, like in you making choices to detail how the world is supposed to look like, and after that then you can start on an adventure and make choices that will guide your character toward different endings. But the focus of most choose your own adventure stories is really on the character creation, to the point where, again, a lot of them end there. You create your character and you pretty much completed the choose your own adventure. After that, maybe you get the chance to detail the world that character will inhabit, and then maybe, again, if you're very lucky, as that is very rare in most modern choose your own adventure stories, then with that character in that world you created, you will be able to go through an actual story and achieve a specific ending. But how do you even create a character? Do you just pick and choose? Are there any rules? Well, yes. A lot of modern choose your own adventure stories will let you pick things like appearance or clothing or abilities or backstory for your character, and they will limit you in the sense that they will only allow you to obviously pick one type of clothing for your character to wear, or pick a set amount of powers or a particular appearance, etc. But another thing that is used to limit your choices in most modern choose your own adventures is a system of points. For example, in a lot of choose your own adventure stories nowadays, you are able to choose your level of difficulty, which will essentially just give you a progressively decreasing amount of points to spend in making your character and world. But again, how does that work? Well, you will start with a number of points, right? And you'll be able to make choices which will either be neutral and simply work in the same way that I described before. You have a variety of options, but you can only choose a particular one for your character, or you'll be able to choose a variety of different particular characteristics, which will either give or take away a certain amount of points. So, for example, let's say you start with 30 points in a particular choose your own adventure story, and then you make a choice that takes away those points, right? If you make enough of these choices that take away your points, you end up with 0 points, meaning you won't be able to make choices that take away points anymore. Oh, but what if I want to create a character with a particular characteristic and I ran out of points? Am I just screwed? Do I have to sacrifice one of the choices I made in order to get that characteristic I want? Well, no, because there are choices that also add points if you pick them, which can allow you to pick more characteristics of your choosing to your character. But this is a bit abstract. Why exactly do some choices give points and some others take away points? Well, that's where the interesting part comes in. Because if a set of choices doesn't work in the structure of, oh, you have a set of choices and you can only pick one or a couple, and you have to use points, generally what will happen is that there are certain positive characteristics that will take away points in order to limit how many positive traits your character can have. So, a particularly useful power like flight will generally take away points, or like your character having a beneficial backstory, like being born in a rich family, that will also generally take away points. And choices that give you points are, as you probably imagined, choices that negatively affect your character. So, for example, if you willingly choose to give your character a particular weakness or a trauma or a difficulty in their backstory, that will add points to your character that you can then use to spend on more positive choices. And if you play the normal choose your own adventure, you may be wondering, oh, but how do I keep track of all these points? Do I have to note this down on a notebook or something? No. Generally, most anime choose your own adventure stories, while some, yes, will require you to use pen and paper to keep track of your points, most of them are automated. It's something you program using a particular coding language in order for the machine to keep track of your choices and points spent, as well as the ones you are allotted with at the beginning, etc. You get the point. Most of what I'm describing is automated. Now, due to this difference, you may come to the same conclusion I did, that most modern choose your own adventure stories, and especially the anime themed ones, are actually less of actual choose your own adventure story and way more of a create your own OC story or create your own OC game would be a better description, which combined with the prevalence of lewd content in most modern choose your own adventures, as well as due to a lot of them being based on existing properties. Like, for example, I found some Honkai Star Rail, or I can't remember, that animated series about League of Legends themed ones. I'd even go so far as to say that most modern choose your own adventures, and again, especially the anime themed ones, are way less actual choose your own adventure stories and way more another form of fan fiction, essentially, which may lead a lot of people to dismiss them. Like, oh, so this is just glorified fan fiction for teenagers to create their own overpowered character and heroine and have sex with them and go on this whole power fantasy bullshit. This is just trashy nonsense I'm not interested in engaging with. And while all those things are true, I'm actually going to defend modern choose your own adventures and say that they do have value beyond just being glorified fanfiction power fantasies. Because due to their structure, they're actually a pretty good way to teach aspiring writers in a pretty easy way how to make interesting characters. How so? Well, since most of them are pretty easy and really fast to play, you can easily create a variety of different characters using them very quickly. And so instead of spending hours and hours actually writing and thinking about all the backstory and the appearance and the characteristics and the powers, you can engage in something more structured and actually fun and engaging, since it is a game, in order to create various fun characters, which naturally will encourage creativity on a person, since considering how easy it is to make characters, this will encourage people to not just stick to the comfort zone and to actually try to make different characters that they normally wouldn't be inclined to. Like, for example, non humanoid characters, or weaker, craftier characters, or even just outright more pathetic characters, instead of the default Mary Sue that you see a lot of OC creators generally default to simply because it's easier and looks more fun. Modern choose your own adventures make the process of making characters that aren't Mary Sue's actually fun as well. And so encourage, ironically, people to not just create super overpowered and unbeatable and beautiful and amazingly talented characters, but to also make some that are a bit more unusual, a bit rarer, a bit weaker, simply because in the process of making dozens, sometimes hundreds of characters, they will be encouraged to give them a bit more variety and to try different things than they normally would while going through the standard process of making characters. And heck, due to the point system, not only are young writers encouraged to make more different, compelling, and interesting characters, but even when they decide to make overpowered characters, the very system naturally encourages them to make even these characters better written, better designed, and more interesting than they normally would be. As to make a character truly overpowered with one of these choose your own adventures, especially in higher difficulties, you have to give your character a lot of vulnerabilities, a lot of flaws, a lot of handicaps, which will inevitably affect them in whatever story they're included in. So, in my opinion, this system not only encourages more creative character and world building writing from young creators, but it even encourages them to make way better written and more balanced characters in general. And it does all this simply through its usual structure. Like the whole system is pretty much designed to naturally encourage creativity and good character writing and guide young people, young writers towards this direction. To the point where I even would go so far as to say that yes, I do recommend that the people who are interested in that to engage in and really try to mess with some of these modern choose your own adventure stories in order to not only naturally become better at it, but having fun doing so, as you're essentially improving yourself while just playing a simple game. So, yeah, while at the end of the day, this is, let's be real, just a glorified and alternative form of fan fiction, I think it can have a genuinely positive impact in the people that engage with it. And they don't even need to engage with it in any special way, just by playing the game the way it was designed to, just by engaging with it a lot and having fun with the system, they will naturally get something out of it. Which is why, again, despite its more apparent simple minded and kinda power fantasy focus, I would genuinely defend them as way more than simple dumb fun. But yeah, with that, I think that will be it for this video. If you liked it, please do all the normal YouTube stuff. You know, like, comment, subscribe, etc. And I do hope to see you next time. Oh, and if you're so inclined, I'd also encourage you to join my membership if you wish to support me financially. I have various membership tiers which you can join for a variety of benefits, with even more to come in the future. Or if you don't want to support me continuously, you also have the option of making a one-time donation through the comments. Like, I'm pretty sure there's an option for you to just make a paid comment, which will be highlighted in the comment section or something. So yeah, if you want to support me, you have both these ways to use, and I'd be really thankful for any cent you're willing to give me. With all that said, though, I bid you guys farewell. Obscure Anime out.